Welcome to Creative or Dead, a podcast about living a creative life.
We're your hosts, Alicia Callahan
and David Constantine.
Come with us as we interview all sorts of people about their creative practice. Hi, David.
Hey, Alicia.
So we just interviewed Susannah Holmberg, an interior designer and founder of Susannah Holmberg Studio. She's based in Utah in the USA, and her incredible interiors have been published far and wide, including Vogue Living, Wallpaper, Architectural Digest, Living, etc., and so many, many more. She was very open about her creative process, and yeah, what's something that really stuck with you from this conversation?
Yeah, I think you're right. It was lovely to be in a conversation that was unguarded around how it all comes together, particularly for Susannah. I think her history, when she talks to us about a background in fine arts and her upbringing with creativity being ubiquitous, you can see that in what she does. And when she talks about what she does, she's talking about houses and spaces for living as artworks, as installations, installations with sight and smell and sound and all of these things that bring it to life, which my critical theory would tell me that there's a German word for, but in practice create spaces which are idiosyncratic and right and self-expressive for the owners and her clients, which is very, very impressive. So enjoy the Gesamtkunstwerk.
Enjoy. Hello, Susannah Holmberg, and welcome to Creative or Dead.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, so we always sort of kick off an episode asking you to share your creative journey. So I guess telling the audience sort of like who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah. Well, I'm Susannah Holmberg, and I run an interior design studio named Susannah Holmberg Studios. And we are it's a tricky name. We are a studio of, I think there's 7 of us now, based in Salt Lake City, Utah, which is not where I grew up, but I ended up out here just to be in the mountains. And so started the studio 6 years ago now. And we focus on residential. We usually have about 1 commercial project going at any time, though. And, our ethos is probably just really unique, non-interior design might be how I classify it. Very, very client specific and focused on, whatever formula emerges according to our clients, the landscape, the architect. So yeah, we've been working for 6 years now, going strong.
Yeah.
One thing I've seen in your the way you talk about your own practice, but also that's been noted in some of the coverage that your practice has had, is the combination of design and art. And I mean, you've almost kind of mentioned a bit of a non-design thing there. Does that come out of your formative experience with art and design or your education?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when I was making art, I gravitated a lot to interior spaces. I just found myself, a lot of my art was sort of models of houses, and it just sort of started to go that way. So there's always been this funny hybrid where the interiors leaked into the art and the art leaks into the interiors. But I think absolutely, I think a home is absolutely an installation, and unavoidably so.
The
Yeah.
whole artwork.
Yeah. The whole saying. I mean, I was thinking about it that I feel like there's often this pursuit in making art where you're trying to create sort of the most authentic installation, right? You might add sound. Like you think about like a undergrad student who's like, "Oh, I'm going to add sound to my installation," and they're like, "Oh, what if I added smell? And what if I?" And it's funny because as you sort of dive deeper into this authenticity of an artistic experience, you have a home, right? It's like
Yeah,
where
yeah.
all happens. So then I think it gets really exciting if you think about a house as the palette for just a full artistic experience.
Was there a moment when you realized that interior design was the direction or the change that you needed to go down, having had an artistic practice? Like, was it a light bulb moment or was it a kind of slow discovery?
It was a totally slow discovery, actually. Like, I think it's funny. I was meeting with some clients this morning, and there was almost this apology for caring about design. And I was thinking about that and caring about the aesthetics that surrounded them. Um, and, they were like, "Oh, we actually really just care about what our house looks like." Like, but they were apologizing. And I was like, that's okay. I don't know if, don't quote me on this, but I think it's kind of an American thing is like, that we're not all raised with, art and design as an inherent value, right? It's almost something that
Mhm.
we are raised to sort of apologize for or think is, secondary. Um, I was luckily not. I was raised by a mother who's a photographer and kind of surrounded by art my whole life, but it's something I've come up against. And so I think I always sort of felt like interiors were sort of fluffy, maybe,
Mhm.
Mm.
and that like art was a deeper pursuit. And then just life, right? So then married and had kids and actually had a whole stint where I taught yoga and lived all over the world doing that. And
Mm.
anyway, and then just sort of your classic story of somebody asked me to do their house and I did that. And it just sort of evolved into working for another design studio for a while before going out on my own. So no light bulb moment to be found. Kind of the circuitous, like, yeah,
I
just
think there's
right.
something in that idea, though, of being apologetic about beauty. It's like maybe to care about beauty is superficial, like,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
aesthetics of our home. But actually, and I think this is something I read in, part of your ethos is like how to live well, like the livability. I guess counter to art, design has to think about function.
Mhm.
So, like beauty and functionality are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that beauty can also be functional in
Mm-hmm.
its own, and so, like, I get really excited with what you're talking about, that, design is this hybrid of beauty and function, and then recently I've been more and more thinking that, like, what if they're not always pitted against each other? That we've got beauty versus function, and, like, that beauty is function. I mean, my husband keeps saying, "And these are troubled times." It's a weird
Mm.
time, right? Just globally and whatever, and in that space, I just find more and more gratitude for beauty and for design and
Yes.
for this value system that celebrates art and design and all of it. So, yeah, I completely agree. Design has to inherently be functional, but I'm getting excited about like what if beauty and what if that is its own function, that purpose is enough, which has been fun to think about.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I think it's a testament to the absolutism of that kind of Bauhaus modernism and its long-reaching fingers through history of the
Yeah.
idea that exactly that, the antithesis that actually beauty can't be functional, that beauty doesn't serve a purpose because it's not, we forget, I think, well, and perhaps even a lot of designers aren't taught that mentality came out of a attitude of rebuilding a post-war Europe and was largely focused towards industrial, mass production. And yes, it had an idealism to the heart of it, but ultimately it was about shifting widgets. So maybe, form and function have a more complicated relationship than to serve each other.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, there's certainly intermingled, right?
Indeed.
They
Yeah.
can't really be separated.
Yeah.
No matter
The
what we
relationship status is complicated.
Yeah. Exactly. Well said. Yeah.
So then talk us through your design process. Like, you get it, spoke to a client today. How do you, how do you kind of evolve a design or an interior? What goes into that?
Yeah. I mean, I think interiors are so interesting because there is a huge amount of it that's not creative, right? Like, so, oh, it's always a struggle. I mean, there's accounting and there's, drafting is, of course, creative, but there's a big piece of it that's very
Mhm.
different than just slapping paint on a canvas, right? And so
Mhm.
I think a big part of the design process is creating in a very unexciting or creative way, like time blocking. I mean, it's so
Mm.
practical, but like, as a studio, we've started keeping Tuesdays and Thursdays completely clear of meetings. We aren't obligated to respond to Slack messages. We're like really trying to create like these moments of I forget who talked about it, the creative process, like down going. Have you heard that phrase? I think
No.
Nietzsche or somebody, but it's like I just have always loved that phrase is down going, which is like when you get to that point, you can call it flow. You can call it
Mm.
like you just hit
Yeah.
that moment where you can be really creative. And because our designs are that, right? They're very much 360-degree installations. We're really
Mhm.
required to hit that space. So that's kind of an unsexy way of classifying it, but really we've found that we have to block time so that we have time reserved for, checking proposals and verifying quantities and triple checking finishes and all of the stuff that's very like analytical to like clear the space for the
Mhm.
more creative, which is awesome. So that's a big part of it, and another part of it is, like I said, is just that relationship with a client. So
Mhm.
it's so cool because it's not just, "I'm gonna make this painting, and then I'm gonna show it to the world and hope somebody likes it," right? Which is, like, the crazy process that artists go through, like,
Yeah.
ah but it's a collaborative thing, right? Even if a client doesn't wanna be super involved, even the most uninvolved client is gonna deeply influence the process. So we
Mhm.
start out by capturing a lot of information in a questionnaire
Mm.
at the beginning, like, "What's your favorite movie? What's your favorite book?
Oh.
What's your favorite hotel?" Like, some are design questions, right? Are you
Mm.
allergic to wool? But a lot are just, understanding whether a client travels, understanding if a client reads, understanding what movies they like, really shape like how you're gonna design their house in such a cool way. So that's our very
Mm.
first step in getting to know
Yeah.
somebody. Yeah.
Mm.
Um,
I'm interested in this in the synthesis of that information because I guess you become then the pivot point around all the influence, all the understanding of the possibilities from a design scheme perspective, and then synthesizing their need and doing that matchmaking. How do you how do you and the team hold that? What is your reference? Where do you draw the inspiration to kind of fill that mental or literal library to draw from?
yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And, there are moments in a day where I'm like, "Ooh, this is a lot." Like, it's like filtering through. I mean, even just sheer number of products and then filtering it through the client and then making sure it still gives us the buzz of excitement that we're sort of hitting something that we want to put our stamp on. It is sort of like making dinner for 6 kids sometimes. You're like, "I have a lot of bosses right now." So, it can be a lot. I've talked about this publicly before, but we have a process where we create a spine, which is just a North Star of images that we put together to
Mhm.
talk about the specific direction because there are so many influences. So we really kind of use images that the clients have been drawn to, put them together, and it really creates a very specific, independent path for them. So, we had a client this morning who we sort of started assembling the spine, and they were attracted to very sort of color blocked, clean images, and they had some real crunchy ones, and then you start to kind of put it together, and it evolves into something that is really unique and new, and we get really excited about that. And I mean, I think about that all the time. I've always been excited by the notion in surrealism that like putting disparate things next to each other creates a little bit of spark. Um,
Mm.
and I think that's so true in our designs that like when you put those two things together, like a little something happens. You put like a modern chrome lamp against some floral grandma wallpaper, and it's like, oh, okay, there is something cool here. Um,
Maybe tension, like a
so
bit of
what's
oh,
that?
sorry, like some tension.
Absolutely, that's the right word. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that maybe, yeah, we create the spine, and then we're also always looking for those little tension points, to make sure that like it's got that little buzz to it, that energy,
Mhm.
you know? And then I think when you create that tension too, it sort of helps something be so unique that it's not anchored in 2026. Let's hope,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
Indeed.
I
Yeah.
mean, that is an interesting tangent to go on, that idea of quote unquote trends in
Yeah.
design, and of course an interior is going to reflect it's the time it's sort of designed, but you also
Mhm.
want to be making sure that it's going to not be, out of like that whole idea of going out of fashion. It just for an interior, it just isn't the right thing. So, what's your take on trends? Like, how do you kind of like design outside of that?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and one we do think about a fair amount. Um, because it's not like you're buying a pair of jeans, right? And you're like,
Mhm.
okay, go with the barrel leg, knowing it'll be out of fashion in 2 years because it's $200 investment. It's something we really are conscious of with our clients, and then it's something that's interesting too because we do sometimes have clients who really like trendy design, right? Like
Mm.
they're attracted to, and I don't use the word trendy as derogatory, actually.
Mm.
So they're attracted to what's in the now and that exciting pop song on the radio. Like, there's nothing
Mm.
wrong with that. And so they're really excited by it. So um, we do need to incorporate it too, especially if it's the client's taste. So I think that the first answer to your question is not always thinking of trends as bad,
Mm.
right? That they're not always a, uh, a negative, right? Like when the Eames chair came out, I'm sure it was trending and then it's just become a classic. So to a certain extent, we sort of try to anticipate whether it's the silhouette or the trends that feel like they're going to die out and look a little like maybe cheapen in a few years, as
Mm.
opposed to ones that might transcend the test of time. And I would say those measures are how it's crafted. So if something is in the now, but it's like very well made. It shows the hand of the maker. It's so unique that it would be sort of hard to mass produce. Like we're going to be
Mm.
really more excited about using that.
Mm.
Um, and then if something's more trendy and it feels like a flash in the pan, we'll use it in a really replaceable way, like a side table or a pillow. So you get
Mm.
that fun pop that can create that tension we talked about, right? It's going to bring a little newness, a little cutting edge to the vibe, but the client can replace that down the road.
Mm.
And then the hope is that the stuff that's gonna last longer, you can swap out a
Mm.
cabinetry handle, you can swap out a side table, and the design will stick for longer.
Mm. Well, you integrate a lot of vintage pieces, stuff from First Dibs as
Yeah.
well, which I think, that speaks to that point of craftsmanship.
Hmm.
Like a lot of the Italian maximalism was very out for a long time and now it's very back. So,
Yeah,
these things, like, they do come around again.
they
And
do. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Maybe we just tell people to wait 20 years.
That's right. Lock it in the cupboard or the garage for 20 years. It'll be good. I'm interested in, you mentioned at the start of our conversation about being in Utah and wanting to be near the mountains.
Yeah.
What role does nature or proximity to nature play in a sense of self, but also I guess on the theme of this, your creativity?
Um, Oh, huge role. I mean, the reason we moved, like I said, was to spend more time outside. I had lived in New York forever and just craved sort of more expanse. And
Mm.
so, yeah, twofold. Like we talked about that sort of creating creative space for creative thought. Definitely, if I'm stuck on a design, I'll just go up in the hills and walk it out.
Mhm.
And I can't tell you how many design problems I've fixed on a hike. So it really does serve that purpose. And then yeah, I mean Utah's such a wonderful, beautiful place with such a sort of quirky sort of design history. And what's been really fun is to challenge maybe an overarching concept of sort of Rocky Mountain American design, right?
Yeah.
And sort of uh, exactly like what you asked, reminds people that houses exist in mountains in Japan and in Spain and in Italy, and that everyone doesn't necessarily feel like we need to throw a big timber beam in there to call it mountain. So it's really like letting the outside come in a way that is authentic to the client and to, I think, a bigger mountain story.
And I mean, as we've kind of covered, the schemes that you realize are atypical. I mean, obviously informed by place, but then you can see that there are those elements of, New York, wonderfully, renovated, or New York brownstones, or larger buildings. There's a kind of a sense of almost kind of country house formality in other areas, but then there's quite humble origins in others, and there's a sparsity but a beauty of curation. Do you go seeking? Is that part of the story of the traveling that you'd mentioned earlier that you've done, or do you actively get out and connect to some of these sources as part of your process of inspiration and development?
Yeah, so much travel. Um, Recently, we went to Japan, and I had been there as a little kid, but I hadn't been there since. And just the use of materials on like the subway poles. They'll just sort of have a chrome lining and then like a cast concrete that hits small format tile around, like, which would be a really kind of elaborate ask of a craftsperson in a home, but it's just in their subway station. So yeah, I just think how other things that are come easy to us, but another place would find challenging and vice versa. So just the
Mhm.
way that materials are used and thought of, and something is precious here as opposed to not somewhere else, and um, so absolutely, yeah. And there's so much happening stateside that's so cool. I mean, the level of sort of craftsmanship that I feel like I've just been watching growing over the past 20 years
Mm.
is amazing. Just people really dedicated to using their hands. And
Mm.
so just deriving so much inspiration from just what people are making and making sure that we're
Mm.
incorporating that as well. So, it's kind of a backwards influence, but it's an influence too, is like kind of creating spaces that can accommodate what people are or taking the time
Mm.
to craft and,
And do you commission often as part of your work of craftspeople? And what kind of
we
things
do,
would that
yeah.
look like?
I mean, and we're continually trying to grow this, and again, we're like, I don't know if other interior designers have chatted with you about this, but I think the more established you get, the braver your clients get, and
Mhm.
the more
Mm.
trusting your clients get, which is really cool. So I feel like more and more we now have clients that will do it. They'll go for it and let us do it. So it can be anything from furniture design to, handmade fabrics, to art pieces, and yeah. A
Fantastic.
lot of our work is custom. A lot of it is designed by us, but we are excited to get more into that realm of commissioning
Mm. Yeah,
as
I
well.
see that you do lots of like built-in sort of banquettes, but not just like a simple banquet, like an elaborate curved banquet and bed heads that turn into furniture. What Yeah, you would need some very good joiners and people on board, and upholsterers, and yeah, how do you kind of like figure out what to bring into a space in that way?
Yeah. Well, I think we just kinda hate ourselves. Sometimes we're, like, picking
Um,
these things and we're like, "Oh my god, what are we doing?" Like, that headboard was a good example, just, like, making sure that thing fit because we got that made in LA, right? So when it gets delivered, it's just like,
it's like it
"Okay."
has to fit.
But no, so it's, I guess we decide I think we just let the design lead, right? And then we just are so truly invested and excited about it that we'll go about making it anyway. That particular headboard, that room just felt like it needed, it was like weirdly long or like weirdly wide. And so we just wanted to create something that was going to sort of bridge that width. And so create like a conversational element that was also in conversation with the bed. And so it's just this kind of womb-like thing. So I think we just get so excited about what the actual design needs that we're more than happy to figure out how to fabricate it. It's an added headache for sure, but it's also so cool. I mean, the clients love when they have something that feels so special, and so
Mm,
unique, and that their friends don't have. And I think that's when it really feels like you are living in a piece of art, like something that was
mhm,
completely, fabricated for you.
mhm,
Yeah, but yeah,
Interesting that I
I was just
sorry, you
gonna
guys, Susanna.
a lot of people get involved, if you think about all of the people involved in orchestrating any one of those things, it's pretty wild, like,
Yeah.
the Zoom calls with the upholsterer and the, you know, cabinet maker and all of it, it's a lot.
Mm. I was just thinking, you were talking about as you build, as you are more established, as your work, proliferates and people are coming to you for the thing that they know that you can do. Um, I wonder whether the equity or the kind of capital that you're building there is as much about this feeling of self-expression that you seem to be able to deliver. What you're talking about is synthesizing the needs or the lifestyle, being able to create a world for these clients that is reflective of them and probably feels to them as if it's an expression of themselves.
Yeah.
I wonder whether that's the hook. Like, do you find that as that's the moment, like when you crack that beyond whether it's the right color or it's the right piece of furniture, whatever, is there an emotional transaction or kind of moment, milestone with a client where that comes to life? And does it change the relationship or is it material to the delivery of the project generally?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I don't know that I'm always there for it. Like, I get the email later or
Yeah.
the note later, where I think it happens, and some designers really do like to do this sort of walkthrough. My gut has always been that that looks so personal. Like,
Mm,
I don't know, that might be my personality, but I don't know if I'd want my designer next to me while I unearth my home. So we generally install and leave it exactly as our vision was and then have them
mm,
come. So I don't know. I think I don't get to witness that, but that is by choice because I don't know. It feels
mm.
intimate to me that
Mm.
And I'm very close to my clients and we're dear friends and everything, but I feel like that's a part of the process that I like to leave to them. But we do always joke in the studios, like as we're sort of getting deeper and deeper and deeper into design. And so you're kind of there and it's freezing, there's no heat yet. And then windows go in and then drywall and then the heat comes on. And there is a moment when we're like, I don't want to ever leave. I don't want to leave. And
It's a pretty good
that,
litmus test.
yeah, exactly. When we hit that moment, we're like, oh, okay, we're good.
Yeah,
It's good.
you've done it.
Yeah, totally. Hmm.
You mentioned that your mom was a photographer. What can you tell us about your childhood? It sounds like it was very creative. Are there any sort of things that you're finding have come back? You know, we often find with our guests that there are moments from childhood that almost, yeah, foreshadowed their future career. And
Totally. Yeah. Oh, well, I feel like there are so many of those things. It was funny. We were just laughing with my kids. Like, I'm taking my daughter to Mexico City. I've never been, dying to go, and she
wow.
just wants to
Mm.
go to Cabo and lie on the beach. And I said, older son, I was like, "Aren't you happy now that I like made you go to all the museums and stuff?" He's like, "No, yeah, you like, trust me, you'll get it one day." So I did have the parents who just paraded us around museums, and I remember just sitting on that bench in the middle of the room and just being like, "When will this be over?" Um, but I just feel so grateful that I just had all of that exposure, just especially when you're little and you just absorb that stuff, it becomes second nature. And,
Mm.
it's just part of your DNA as opposed to like, "Huh, I wonder whether this would look good." Like, I am aware that a lot of my, instincts come from probably pretty early exposure to art and design. But my sister and I
Mm.
always laugh that we used to, lift up the tablecloths when we went out to restaurants, and if it was like a metal folding table, we'd be like, "Ugh, no." So I was already a little
Do
design.
you still?
Yeah, on the sly. I don't let anyone see me, but
I always do the trick when it's like a marble bench. I always put my hand underneath to see if it's solid or if it's got the
oh,
lip.
oh,
I'm like,
absolutely right.
they've
Yeah.
tricked.
Yes, totally. Yeah, or an island. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. So, no, and my mom was a photographer. She did a series of photographs of me and my sister actually, which were really beautiful. She would
Mm.
um put us in feather masks and in sort of this landscape. And they're such beautiful photographs of sort of
Wow.
white and lovely. Yeah, it was cool. So she was kind of ahead of her time. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
It sounds as though, because we talk a lot about creativity as a kind of a universal trait of people, but sadly not one that is fostered in all or that there's the opportunity to express. It sounds like that's the kind of environment where I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but you tell me if this is kind of accurate. Like creativity was just considered an attribute, like part of being yourself, rather than it's a skill that you'd acquired or something that you were that you're lucky to have or that was peripheral to your sense of self.
Oh,
Would that be
yeah.
true?
I think that is probably true. And I haven't looked at it from that angle. But absolutely. I think it was like just part of the mesh of, especially when you have a parent doing it, right? It doesn't feel singular. It's just part of the fabric that makes up your family. And my dad was deeply creative too. He had a wood shop. And
Yeah.
so I learned how to sort of use a miter saw when I was young and sand things. And again, like when I was older and had friends building houses, they were like, "How do you know how to do this?" And I was like, "I don't know."
But
Well,
it's true though.
oh,
It doesn't become something that uh, is has stigma around it. It's just
yeah.
the way you do things is by doing them. But it's
Mhm.
remarkable how a lot of the people that we've had on, it's just been a demonstrative thing. Sculptors whose parents went out to the back shed and fixed things because they broke, whether they're on a farm or wherever they were. It was
Yeah.
just no, you just did it. because we couldn't go and buy another one, or why would we when we could do it ourselves? But that sense that do it yourself is not, ironically, as much as there's a huge industry for it, do it yourself is actually not a universal expectation or trait. People, people defer to the expert, but it seems like the people that realize a vision are the ones that don't see that barrier in front of them.
Yeah. I think that's a very cool way of looking at it. And I think people are revisiting that now, right? They're realizing that how deeply healing it is to like make something and do it yourself and all of that. And I just keep hoping that that continues to grow, but I'm seeing it so much that, I mean, with my children, I've always said, like, when you're sad, I'm like, my best advice is go outside or draw. Like, do either of those things. And it's so cool now that they're tweens and teens. Like, they'll have a bad day and I'll see them both pick up a craft or draw. And I'm like, aha, like it's working.
Oh. Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
I mean, there's one question I was going to ask, and we have talked about with some of our guests who've got kids as well, around, how intentional have you been in making sure that creativity hasn't been, education is the one that always comes up, that the capability of a systemic education system to enhance creativity. Is that something that you've had to rail against or append, or how's that experience been for you in trying to preserve your kids' creativity?
yeah. I mean, we chose to send our kids to a school that really prioritized the creative. And so uh, that was interesting. But, Utah isn't an art hub for sure, right? So I was really aware that we were moving to a place that has really cool values, right? Like a lot of value placed with being outside and being active, and a really beautiful value system here, but different than what I had growing up. So yeah, I think I've really been conscious of augmenting that on the side, and making sure that that is inherited. And you were talking about sort of going out and fixing things. Like my husband's a tinkerer. Like he loves working on motorcycles, right? We have two in our garage right now. And so same thing. Like, so my son will go out and they'll just kind of mess around on stuff like so. Yeah, I think all of it, like, and maybe what's nice too is being sort of removed from the snobbery of the coasts, right? And so it's kind of like, yeah, that's art too. Like work on a motorcycle.
Absolutely.
Any of it, right? It's all the same.
Do you have like a hobby or a craft practice yourself? I imagine running a busy business, like there might not be much time, but yeah.
Is there an outlet just for you?
Oh God, not really. There should be. No, I mean I do. I really miss painting. And do hope to get back to that at some point and integrate it into our work a little bit. And I mean, I just think that the creative process of this business is hugely satisfying, actually. So I don't really crave it because I am getting that outlet. But I do. I have, instead of like the glass of wine at night, I've just been needle pointing and knitting. I've noticed that it's just a really good, like, just mind reset. Like, I just feel like my little neurons softening or something. And it's been so cool. Like, it's just this lovely, I don't know, just meditation.
Like relaxation, I imagine.
Yeah, totally.
But also using the hands, using coordination, but without, knowing, with a predetermined path, not having to pick where you're going to go at every point.
100%. I'm not knitting things that I even really care about. It's like truly just the act of it.
So just a stack of unworn jumpers in the corner.
You'll have yards and yards of scarf.
I should just knit the same scarf and for years.
Everyone gets a scarf. All the clients get a Christmas scarf for Christmas.
Just snip a different bit off.
Yeah.
How long? Yay long.
Yeah, that's
very good.
Yeah.
I read in an interview that you always have music playing and candles burning. What music do you put on to sort of set the vibe?
Well, I mean, it just depends on the day, right? Like we snow day yesterday, so that was Nina Simone.
Nice.
Pavement is a favorite band. I've been playing them a lot again lately. Do you guys know Will Oldham and the Palace Brothers?
No.
No, I'm gonna
Yeah,
look that up.
it's a little like niche, but good. Yeah, look him up. What else? I would say those are just John Prine usually makes the list.
Hmm. Is the studio a democratic playlist environment, or are you ruling with an iron fist?
Oh, it's very democratic. It's kind of whoever gets there first. Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of know who got in first based on what you're listening to. Yeah.
Mm. One thing around team, which we often ask for creative leaders as well, is how do you find the process of realizing the creative vision in collaboration, but also direction of a team of designers? And do you find that differently challenging or fulfilling to the kind of the clarity and the closeness of an individual creative practice?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's one that I think has been my biggest learning curve since opening a studio. Um, it's a part that I deeply love, assuming that the team member is equally invested and excited about design, not my
Mm,
studio, but design in
mm,
general.
mhm,
And right
Mm,
now I just have the most lovely, I think, fulfilling and fulfilled team where like it just feels like everyone's really pumped to get to work and see each other and create together. One thing I've really started to be aware of is that, you need systems for sure. You need to sort of say, this is your job description, this is what is expected of you. But more and more, I've just been realizing how adaptive one has to be for every human who walks in the door.
mm,
And it's intellectually interesting. It can be
mm,
tiring too, right? Because one
mm,
person selling over here, but needs to be sort of walked through a different thing. And then another team member is kind of flipped on that. So I heard something recently about sort of systems create freedom. So, sort of like my
mhm,
time blocking thing, there's so many like
mm,
unsexy elements of this where you're sort of creating this structure that
mhm,
then can allow that really creative collaboration
mm,
to thrive. So, sometimes it's just getting everybody on board where they really deeply understand the systems and how we do a CD set and how we like to do a presentation. And then, as they get really versed in that, just then you get to really start to build and nurture their aesthetic and yeah. And it's tricky too when you run a studio that has a certain aesthetic. Ours isn't as predetermined as some, because we do try to have it be pretty client specific and project specific, but there is sort of a caliber that we're trying to hit. So it's something I'm continually working on, is how to nurture and support and let a team member flourish while also needing to direct too. So it's um it's a tightrope sometimes, I
mm.
think, like making sure that they feel so supported and excited. But you do have to sort of steer things as well. So
mm.
That's the dance.
it's such a dance, yeah, but it's fun. It's like, again, my team is so awesome, and it's really I can't think of anything more fulfilling than, like, you know, doing that dance for these guys, so,
Fabulous.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, on that idea of setting up structure to allow creativity to flourish,
Mhm.
it's something I've like thought about a lot because I don't know. It is. I agree with you. I think once you know the rules, you know what can be broken.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, how are there any other kind of ways in which you create that container for creativity to happen?
Yeah. I mean, I think, we talked about the sort of time blocking, and then there are real systems around the sort of more specific things like time blocking and flow charts and proposals and all that stuff. Um, I think what is exciting, I mean, I think that's an interesting question when you think about aesthetics too, like sort of rules that can be broken.
Mm.
And so I think when you sort of have a caliber of understanding that you definitely want 20 inches between a sofa and a coffee table, like you really don't want much less than that, right? And
Mm.
so, sort of these codes and systems that have
Mm.
been standardized and letting our team understand those. And then you break one of those rules and you get that little buzz I was talking about. So you throw like super big pennant over a table and it's like nuts, but it's so cool. But it wouldn't work if that pendant was over a table and then the chairs were also way too big, right?
Mm.
I think like making sure that you're sort of following systems. Again, like you said, you still have to live in it. It still has to function. It still has to be comfortable. So just making sure you're sort of following systems in terms of like how a body needs, you don't want to
Mm.
you don't want a sofa that's much shorter than 13 inches, especially if your grandparents are coming over, following those rules, because then when you break them, that there's some magic that can happen there too.
Yeah. Yeah, my
Yeah.
pet peeve is when a stool, like a bar stool, is too high or too short for the bench height.
Yeah.
That is,
Oh my
it's like
gosh.
either your legs don't fit underneath or you feel like you're
Like a
trying
little kid, yes, totally. I know, I know.
to.
So true. That's maybe
So
apple break, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
You've mentioned travel and hiking and art. What other influences do you draw on?
I mean, I think I draw on art a lot for the design, right? So, just thinking about composition,
Mm.
that way, in a space. I think, um and this is that same sort of breaking rules thing. Like, I've been really excited lately by anything. Um, I feel like there's this desire always to focus on nature and celebration of nature and design, which I agree is beautiful and wonderful. And I've been a little excited by the fascination of how humans constantly create things that have so little to do with nature, if that makes sense. Like, like a
Like, do you have an
neon
example?
like a
Yeah.
neon, like a neon shirt or, things that are, like, so antithetical and truly just from the human mind.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
I've been really excited about I mean, you kind of go to Japan and you get that, right? You get, like, the most beautiful nature-oriented things, and then you've just got a whole, so many systems that are really just only existing because of what humans come up with,
Mm.
slightly
Mm.
out of our own imaginations,
Mm.
whether it's manga or, yeah, like neon colors or what are other good
Mm.
examples? Just like, I mean, of course, we're all influenced by things around us, but I've just been sort of excited by that, like, just like
Mm.
I don't know, like leaven
Well,
up on what humans are doing. Yeah.
it's like a tension between man-made versus, yeah,
Yeah,
nature.
totally. And I feel like
Mm.
man-made gets a bad rap, and lately I've been like,
Mm.
"Let's celebrate it because it's really pretty cool," like,
Yeah, yeah. We're pretty ingenious animals, really.
we totally are. Yeah, yeah. So
Um,
that's kind of an abstract answer, but I've been just sort of hanging out in that space a little, like, there's some cool stuff we're doing.
that's
Mm.
good. I've got a kind of a question around a unicorn project. So you've done a lot, and you've done a lot of very celebrated work. Is there a kind of project or conditions for you doing what you do that you would love to do that you've not done so far? A typology of building or a scale or a location or something
Yeah.
like that?
Um, well, it's been, in Utah, there's a lot of square footage out here. I mean, we work across the country now, but
Mm.
we work on pretty large square footage. And so I get really excited about the idea of just like a tiny little farmhouse somewhere, or just like, something with just small spaces, because I think that has way different problems to solve, and
Mm,
that feels exciting. And I would love to do a hotel. Again, we talked about
mm,
immersive,
mm,
that houses are immersive art, right? And so I love the idea of creating a space where people get to travel to and have a completely transformative experience
mm.
with those
Wow.
candles and that playlist.
Yeah.
That's
I was
right.
gonna say, I was like
You
that the
design it all.
Yeah,
hotels can be like fully all the senses activated, like the best
totally.
ones. They are,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. I get really frustrated when I go to a hotel and it doesn't smell good. Like, I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
drop the ball.
Rookie error.
That's right. Well, presumably there's a scale there. It's a gamut of how bad it smells.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Yes. I'm leaving immediately to mediocre TripAdvisor rating
for
to
sure.
I'm in heaven.
Yes, there is definitely a scale, but it's just like I feel like you can make kind of a crappy hotel feel pretty nice if it smells really
Mm.
good.
Yeah. So it'll be all
Yeah,
right. Just pop a flamingo estate candle in the corner and no one will
yeah,
notice.
exactly.
I mean, there's some serious. They're about the closest thing to Class A drugs in the candle world, I reckon, for me at the
Oh,
moment.
yeah, for sure. I know, they're so good, that tomato.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're ready for our final question.
Oh, about the
Yeah.
final question.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm hoping you had a chance to have a look at it ahead of time. It might
I
come
did,
it might be hard to answer on the spot otherwise.
yeah, I did think about it. Tough one and a really cool one, yeah.
So, yeah, we ask all of our guests, if you could design your own death, what would it be? And it can be as creative or as contemplative as you would like. Obviously, some people take it quite seriously because it is a topic with depth. Or it could be about legacy, like how your work stands up after you're gone. Or it could be really about the experience that your loved ones will have. So to you, Susannah, yeah, how would you design your own death?
Well, I did like the legacy piece. I thought that was interesting. And I had read something the other day about how, when people think about somebody like your kids, for example, they're not going to remember like a specific meal. They're not going to remember a specific gift, but they'll just remember the flavor, the taste, the feel of
Mm.
child. Right. And we talked about that a little creatively. So for me, that's how I like to think of legacy is leaving just something in my wake that feels really good, less about the credit, but just like leaving that I don't know, special something in my wake. Um, and but I think I don't know. The other thing I kept coming to, which is actually really funny, is I just I couldn't decide how I actually wanted to die, and I'm not sure that's even a question. But then I was like, "Oh, I really like the idea of everyone wearing black and veils."
Good.
And I didn't know
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
go there, but then I was like noticed I was imagining, like, this beautiful, like, rainy green background and then beautiful black costumes and then the florals, so I was like, "Oh, I'm just interior designing my funeral," so
Yeah, that's allowed. That's allowed. We did
Okay.
have a fashion designer telling us about how he wanted everyone to be in kind of Elizabethan style ruffs, and he would
yeah,
lay in state in candlelight so people could come and say their final piece to him.
I love that, yeah. So, yeah, I like the idea of black and veils and
Mm,
gorgeous oversized florals. Um,
And I like the mise en scène of a rainy green backdrop as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
In
how
the
green
mm,
is greener in the
in
rain?
nature?
Yeah.
Yes.
mm.
Yeah, I think so. I do like the idea of people traveling for the funeral. So my loved ones going somewhere where they get a really cool experience. So like they've got to climb some epic mountain or something, like just so that they are having this like super unique experience. Something else I thought about, like in terms of legacy, was like people remembering my name afterwards. That doesn't feel important, but I think it would be a bummer if you poof off of the earth and you haven't changed anything. Like nobody's looking at anything differently, or minds haven't been changed at all. So that's another way I thought was interesting to think about legacy. Like, did you change somebody's mind about something? Was there, was something straight curved after you left? Like, I do like that idea of like, leaving a mark and having influence that way.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So basically, people wearing black dresses and veils, climbing rocky
mountains,
cliffs, holding oversized florals. There we have it.
Yeah, but only one oversized thing. Not everything can be oversized.
That's the only one.
Not a massive coffin or anything.
Yeah. Coffin is to scale.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Susannah, thank you so much for sharing your process and all of your life story.
It was such a fun chat. I feel like we just shared a glass of wine. It was nice.
Yeah. Well, the next time we're in Utah, we're definitely going to hang out.
Let's do it. Yeah. Come ski. Yeah.
I've never skied in my life, so.
Well, don't start then.
Yeah. It might be too late for you.
I watch adults learn, and it seems scary.
It's not. I genuinely thought you were going to say it's not edifying for anyone.
Oh yeah.
Like a bunch of 4-year-olds, and then someone that's 6 foot something.
Yeah. But yes, I would love to. That would be awesome. This has been a great chat.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, thank you.
You've been listening to Creativeordead. This episode was recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri and Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and we would like to pay respects to elders past and present, extending that acknowledgement to all First Nations and Indigenous peoples around the world.
If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, you can find many more like it on whatever platform you get your podcasts. And if you've really enjoyed it, please feel free to leave us a review or to share it with someone that you think might find it interesting.